Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF Podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF Podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or I guess it could be afternoon or evening
You
when
never
you're
know.
listening
Depends
to
on
it,
when you
but it's
listen
good
to it.
morning for us.
Episode 15.
Awesome.
Getting it out of the way because I just remembered it. So I'm going to get that done. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I want to first of all thank everybody that's listening. I'm continue to be blown away week by week by the feedback we're getting from everybody and everybody coming in and just letting us know what they want to hear, letting us know what we're doing. I honestly, the feedback of people saying how happy they are with the podcast is like fuel to keep this thing just going and going and going. It gets me so excited and happy. And I know there's some listeners out there that have had conversations with me. Even we've had conversations on the phone so far. Shout out to all those guys. Really, really loving the feedback we're getting from this and the positivity about the ICF industry and everything. And it's worked out very, very well and continues to just keep growing.
Yeah, and our listeners have been asking for this episode that we're actually going to do right now, like since the very beginning.
Probably
They've
the
been
most.
asking,
I mean, I hate to beat down any of our future guests or past guests as not being as cool, but we do have Marr with Helix Steel on here. Everyone's talking about Helix. It is something that is when we talk about the future of the industry, it's definitely probably one of the first things that come up. I mean, everybody says, yeah, can you believe this Helix product and what it's doing? So I don't want to go too far into the sales pitch for you, Erica. So let's welcome Erica. And how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Doing good. It's nice Friday. So
You're like, woohoo!
woohoo! Yeah.
So we got the ability, we've obviously seen you at shows and got to talk with you at shows and stuff and got to know you a little bit. And it's something that we told you right from the beginning. We're like, we really want you on this podcast because it's something that everyone needs to know about. But let's back up a little bit and see, how did you get involved with Helix and what's a little bit of your history and backstory?
Well, guys, no, I'm excited to be on the podcast. I was excited to get it scheduled, and ever since we guys first started talking, personally got into Helix because I was, out of college. I went into the engineering field in more of the GIS and drafting. Got into the construction industry, did a couple years of that. And then, I was sitting behind a desk all day, just drafting and working on CAD and GIS. And I'm too talkative for that. So I wanted to get out and I wanted to do sales. I wanted to travel. I wanted to talk to people every day. And, sales really did that, and background in construction. So Helix was, good opportunity.
So was it kind of just an opportunity in sales and construction kind of deal? And then you learned about, I like to call them the widgets. I mean, as a fellow salesperson, that's my love, is the sales side of things. And I feel like when you love sales, it's just learning a different widget, and that's something that you can, once you learn about, you can sell it. And if it's a good widget, right? And did you kind of move into that position because it was a sales position and then learn about Helix, or did you know what Helix was prior to applying for the job?
Didn't know a whole lot about Helix, but what I do know is that I already had a technical love. I'm very interested in all things sort of specifications, more of, when it comes to even like bicycles or synthesizers, anything that's very technical. I love to get deep into the information on it. But with Helix, it's not just a, off the shelf type item.
Right.
It does require learning about it. And I felt like for the first few years of even being at Helix, I'm learning something new about the engineering side of it, the technical things of it, that it wasn't just like learn it right away. There were some things about it that I was like, oh, it can do that. Oh, and this is why it can do that. And there's a lot with, codes. There's a whole heck to read up on. If you love technical, construction industries for you.
You could dive deep into the technical with Helix. I mean, we've worked with it on one job. One of our clients used it, and it was super interesting just to get in there and see how it worked. But the technical side of it, even from your guys' website, there's a lot there.
Well, we're really trying to make it accessible. And actually, I think one of the things that we've really been focusing on since 2019 is our ICC evaluation reports to make it easy, make it, take this thing, take it to a ready mixer. You can take it to engineer or code official, try to make it all a one-stop kind of shop with plug and chug, with dosages, tables, section views, details, everything. So that's been a focus because it can be. You could study all sorts of things in depth, but to use it in the field in ICF, having one thing that makes it accessible. So you're right. You got to make it friendly. Yeah.
You can nerd out on this for a while, but backing up just a little bit. Let's
want to.
We know our listeners are super smart, so we almost forget that sometimes we have some people on here that may be new and just learning or listening to their first podcast. If they pick off this one as their first podcast, learning about ICF. So maybe give us the real basic pitch of like, someone says, what is Helix? They've never heard of it. What is it?
Yeah. So Helix is a replacement for rebar and mesh in precast, ICF, slabs, any application where you have concrete. There is a place for Helix to make labor easier, to speed up your time schedules, actually to deal with when you don't have labor on hand. Helix is that solution, making it easier for construction. In ICF, that means stacking and pouring. You place your blocks, you stack up, pour.
Yeah. None of that, because everyone loves packing around rebar and bending it and cutting it because that's so much fun.
Who doesn't?
I know my guys just live for it. That's what every day they come to work going, I hope we do more rebar today. Like that's their love. So
you're right.
Not at all. Yeah. It's something it literally, you talk about selling something and it really sells to the guys on the job site. And I think that's probably a really interesting part of your job is that you have kind of two sales pitches here. You got, and we see it because I consider myself an active owner. I own the company, but I also go out and still stack, and I probably will till I die, and I may die holding on to a pump. I don't know, but I still go out there and do that. And I know that my guys, if you give them that pitch of like, hey, how would you like to not have to cut rebar, bend rebar, and we could just pump it into the wall as part of the mix, that's something they love. But it has to get past me, the owner, to make the decision to do that. And so, how do you get past, where are you at? Do you guys have any kind of idea? It's like number wise versus somebody just using regular rebar versus, going to Helix? Is it I know it's a time savings. Is there, where does it come in money wise?
Well, there's a few things to look at when it comes to that. If you're looking at raw material to raw material, you're not going to get much of a good answer on what your savings are. When you are not having rebar in the slab, you're not having it in the footings and in the walls, you could start looking at the footings. You're replacing that rebar there, and you're not having to wait for inspections. Your reinforcement comes in on the country. So you're talking time savings there. And then you're talking about placement in the slab and in the walls, and horizontal bar. It goes, all the way around, and then every level all the way up. You're talking about also dropping in verticals really isn't the biggest time consuming process, but those horizontal bar can really take up a lot of time. So when you're talking about then on top of the inspections, you're talking about the placement and procuring that. So you're having to get the ready mixer, get the rebar, shows up on site, then you're placing it. It's sitting outside in the elements, rusting. That's one of the questions I get. Does it rust? Right? Because they're saying their mesh or rebar out on site, just rusting. You're throwing it in rusty. That the element's compromised from the elements, whereas Helix is galvanized. So you're not having to worry about rust. You're also saving from the fact that it just shows up on site and you just pour it. So you can stack up your whole wall. Big in the ICF industry now, or starting, is people are paneling their ICF and they're showing up and putting Helix in when it shows up. So they're saving even more time by having the walls show up already stacked. So
I did just read about that. Actually,
when you're talking about the total cost.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just read about a guy that was panelizing, and the Helix came up in that, and how they would, cause they're talking about rebar placement and how do you move it around once it's, you got to put the rebar in as you're doing it, and there was discussions within the comments about it, and the Helix came up. So that's interesting you mentioned that, because it is. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, it's a lot of time dealing with rebar, a ton of time. I mean, it's the negative. If you look at it, it's the negative part of installing is dealing with the rebar. I mean, most guys love grabbing 2-pound blocks and throwing them at each other and slamming together like Legos for big kids. It's pretty easy and clean and nice and easy, so I think it does eliminate, an issue that people have in cutting that out. But so explain
safety on site. Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, when you're stacking up blocks and then you're moving around the site and you have a rebar right there and you have a whole cutting station. There's trip hazards everywhere.
Yeah. Packing around a 20,
so you can help eliminate that.
A 20-foot spear that you're running around the job site with everybody.
How else am I gonna injure myself on every job site?
I know.
I'm not going to have any rebar cuts.
You'll find a way.
I'm a perennial tripper. Yeah. I'm not made for the construction site. Tripping it.
You'll somehow trip over Helix.
I will.
So explain, like, to somebody, again, going back to people that never seen it on a job site, how it comes out. Does it, is this something that's being applied at the mix, at the ready mix company's yard when it's being batched? Is it being mixed into the truck? I mean, how is it being applied?
Great question. So a lot of customers that have been using Helix for a long time, they have their preferred method. Most of the time, it's right there at the batch plant. So Helix it shows up at the ready mixer. The ready mixer either has a conveyor or they have a slump stand or something that they then put the Helix into the hopper, into the drum first. And then it goes into the batch plant to get the water, to get the concrete, everything. So it shows up on your site ready to pour. And whether that's even being pumped, Helix is pumped all the time to match into vertical structures, even far away structures. So 3-inch line for residential construction, or if you're using a larger aggregate, 4-inch, but 3-inch is pretty typical. Helix is not going to do any more harm than an aggregate would in the pump or in the line. And so to minimize any type of balling, as long as you're following our Helix standard batching and dosing mixing instructions, any person selling Helix that works for Helix or is a distributor that has poured with Helix has those instructions and they can provide them. So we have dry batch, we have wet batch, we have a precast instructions. We have instructions for all sorts of on-site mixing. So if those who choose to add it in after the Helix or the concrete showed up, there is a process for that to also minimize any.
Okay. So there is the option to put, because I've always, heard of it going in at the plant, but there is an option of, the truck shows up and you can apply it on site.
You can. It's just making sure you're not dumping. Right. I mean, and like I said, I've got dosing and mixing instructions in a PDF format. We have print format. So you could drop those off at your ready mixer. I do call, if you have a pour that's their first time user, ready mixer, we do pre-pour calls. So
cool.
We have structural engineers and sales engineers who will go and call that ready mixer, walk them through, ask them any questions, ask them how they mix others, what they're currently doing, what their setup looks like. And that usually helps with confusion or anything that ready mixer is a first time user.
That's huge. And I'm going to steal something I heard in a podcast yesterday a little bit from Beth and Zach. If anyone listens to the Smarter Building Solutions podcast, I'll give them a shout out. Those guys were just talking about how important it is for manufacturers to integrate, what the most important thing for a manufacturer to integrate with. And a lot of it is the communication and helping make it a seamless transition to using their product. And you were giving examples of companies doing that and involving the training. And I think that's huge about Helix, is because you guys are helping get your product out and you're doing the legwork to get your product out. I've had, situations with different products over the 20 plus years. I've had people come to me with a product and they're like, yeah, and here you go. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, how do we get this past, the install, how do we get this to the installer? How do we get past the engineers? How do we get, and they're like, well, no, you do that, and I don't need another job. I don't need something else to do. If I don't need a product that makes more work for me. So the fact that Helix is willing to, help us get that, we want to use this product and you help us make it easy is really important.
That's my job. I mean, that's my job. So when I take, so in any of the industries that I work in, so Helix can be used where concrete is. So that's all the different, they have precast, commercial, industrial, residential, mixed use, whatever it is. I take that legwork for you. So a lot of that had to do with our evaluation reports. So what were the big questions that people were asking us is, tables, having dosages. How can what do I give to my code official? What do I give to my engineer? So that evaluation report, it's the ICC EER 3949, and that's the Helix Steel evaluation report. So that has everything that a code official would need on it. That has anything a ready mixer could need on it, engineer could need on it. And we just wanted to, that's my job. So I'll take calls and field calls from code officials. I'll field calls from an engineer with questions. I go out and call like DOTs and I'll get approvals for my customers. I'm certainly not going to say to my customer to do all the work because then they're not going to.
So then you
and that doesn't help anybody. I'll do it.
And then you show up at the job and you pour it for them. You finish it. You trowel it. You help them clean up.
Yep.
All that stuff.
Yep. I'll do their dishes and I'll also vacuum.
And you cook them dinner that night. It's amazing. You talk about service.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I have more than 24 hours in a day. Yeah.
I need to talk to you off camera and figure out how to do that. So we'll get more than 24 hours in a day. But
yeah, we'll connect.
Okay. But so let's say, new customer comes in and they're wanting to use it. Their engineer is not familiar with it. Their jurisdiction may or may not be familiar with it. How do they get started working with Helix and go through those approvals? Because let's say they're, a remote site that it's going to be difficult to get all the rebar and get all this stuff too. So how do they get started working with you?
Right. My very first step is to show them our evaluation report. In that evaluation report, section 2 covers all of the code information that is needed for the code official. So builders are more than welcome to copy me on emails that they're sending to the code official. So that code official can get my contact information. They can call me. I encourage that actually, because that makes it easier for the customer. They have my email, just send it to the code official. I'll answer the question. The evaluation report has all the code information in section 2. So the ICC evaluation service is the same code body or the same service that you publish in the International Residential Code. So as a code official, you've seen these reports every day for products that you're approving all the time or projects that you're approving. So having that really is the first thing that I'm going to give somebody that's new. They're going to have everything that they need in there. If something falls outside of those tables, it doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means that this is a good thing that we get to use our engineering team and I get to send their plans to our engineering team. Our engineering team comes back to me with the dosages, with everything that they would need to keep or remove from the walls, like as far as the field steel. And then if that project is good to go, they're ready to use Helix, then we can provide the calcs. The best part about our evaluation report is that it actually acts as those calculations if the project falls on those tables. So we have above and below grade wall tables. It really is a one-stop. So that's that first thing I'm going to give a new customer, first person who's trying to use Helix.
And then in working with their engineers, like to get all the engineering for the site, because normally our engineers are going to call out the rebar that we have to have for horizontals and verticals and and window lintels and all that kind of stuff. And so the Helix engineers will work with the local engineer to facilitate all of that.
Right. So our designs always assume that the dowels or any connection steel at cold joints remains, any lintels remain, and the IRC requires rebar run the openings, typically number 4 bar. So we require that those things do not change, and we do not eliminate those. And so our engineering team, when we provide calcs and we provide our dosages, we will say those things as well. So we do get asked questions when I do provide those, what stays, what remains, what removes. We'll answer all that because we have a full engineering team that provides the Helix design. A lot of ICF manufacturers, which I think is really great, they offer their design tables too. So they have all of their rebar tables and we have them. So I have Nuduras, I have Build blocks, I have Fox blocks, I have, Invic Logics, you name it. So I have their rebar tables. So if someone says to me that they're using a flat type ICF, I usually ask what it is. And then I already have everything that I need. I just need to, their wall height, what size they're using. It's very, and it's a very, even if you didn't know a whole lot about ICF, you're starting for the first time, you could get using Helix.
And it's cool for like, as somebody that, we own a drafting company, right? And we, one of the things we pride ourselves on is we specialize in ICF blueprint, drawing ICF plans. And so we do the same thing. We specifically will put the details for that block, the dimensions of that block. And I think it's cool, like if, working with Helix is we could actually input those into our drawings as well, saying, here's, we can mark out that area where it is a, round windows. Here's where you are going to have rebar. We call it a naked view. There's a way you can take certain things out of the program and just show what you want to see. Like, so, we do that with framing because a lot of times it's hard with framers. They want to quote the customer a full framing job. And we're like, no, hold on. Let me show you this plan. And then let me show you the naked view of what's framed. And you hit that. And 75% of their work disappears off the page. And I think that could be the same thing as far as if you do that with the rebar, where all of a sudden you go, okay, here's what you're going to actually have rebar for now is you're going to hit that naked view and it's going to show up just rebar around the doors and windows. So I think that would be, all of a sudden now you've got your window lentils and your rebar around the edges and different things that would show up and take out all that other rebar. Could be a really good sales pitch for Helix, but also stop the confusion of like, okay, where can I add the rebar? Where can we,
or where do we have to,
where do we have to have it versus where do we have Helix?
So that's a great point. So we have sales engineers. So we have a full structural engineering team. The sales engineers are the ones that are calling and speaking to engineers to get specifications. So that's a whole thing. We have a whole department that will help engineers specify Helix. We have quite a few already doing that now. And listeners actually may already know of one that is doing that. And so we provide them the information that they need to specify it, to put it on the plans. So there's multiple ways to do it. So you could have your engineer putting us right on the plans. You could come to us and get the conversions. You could use our tables right off the bat and and just use it as an alternative and go that route. So we have, many different ways you can.
I am starting to believe that you have more than 24 hours in a day if you're helping this many people with this much detail. So it's very impressive. I'm sitting here going,
crazy you ask. Yeah.
As someone who managed a territory and had people calling me for every little thing, I'm like, I can't imagine just opening up the can of, call me for everything. Like you sound like you do. So kudos to you for figuring out how a new time continuum or something to do this. But
and if
awesome.
I don't know something, I know somebody who does.
Right.
So that's if hey, I get asked what ready mixer has used Helix before, and I'll hold on, let me try to find somebody. Or if I can't find them, I'll ask one of my coworkers, do you know somebody that, we'll try to engineers that specify ICF distributors. We know a large network, and I'm sure you guys too. So if I don't know it, I know somebody who does know it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, well, let's get into Heather's got her questions of the day that she always has, or questions of the episode.
Find them though, because we.
I mean, you think we'd remember? There's only 3, but we always mess it up somehow. But I think it makes us look real. Like people,
Unlike
they like
Erica,
that. We're
I
normal.
do not have 36 hours in a day, and my brain is full of a lot of information, like credit card numbers and account numbers.
Right, you can remember our credit card numbers, which is blows my mind.
Movie lines, not
Heather's the family manager.
Yeah.
You're the family manager, aren't you?
Yeah.
Same.
But I quote her a line from Step Brothers, and she completely goes over her head. She doesn't know it, but all of a sudden, if I need our Amex card
Sounds
number,
like you're watching Step Brothers tonight.
No, we're not on a cruise. Like we watch it every time we go on vacation. But okay, so first question: What is a memorable experience that you have had with Helix?
Gosh. Okay. So I've had a lot. I've really enjoyed working for Helix. I'm not going to talk about all of our Las Vegas fun stories when we go to the World of Concrete.
Those didn't have. They stayed in Vegas. They stayed in Vegas. That didn't
Right.
happen.
I mean, honestly, one of the funniest times actually was in Vegas when we, as a team, it was like the last night of the show. It was like Thursday or something. We went to get sushi, and I ordered sushi, and everybody else did. And a coworker of mine ordered my favorite roll, and so we were like, "Hey, let's just trade for one roll, because like one little section of the roll." And I was like, "Sure." And so the very first bite, I didn't even get to eat mine. I got some sushi from his. I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant, but I ate it, and the fishbone got stuck in my tonsil. And so it's funny now because I'm fine. But we joke because one of my coworkers, it was his sushi roll, and it got stuck in my tonsil, and I, had to go. They thought I was choking, and I was like, no, like I was just, gagging because there's something in my tonsil. And we joked because at the hospital, they kept telling me that my dad was there waiting for me, but it's my coworker, Al. He kept he was just so worried about me. It was his role. He was so worried. He followed to the hospital, and they were like, your dad's out in the waiting room. I'm like, that's Al. Don't worry about it. I'm coming. He's fine. He's not my dad. But now that was like the running joke for a long time. That was my dad.
Well, and it's ironic that it was almost like a little piece of Helix, right? Like it was like it was like a fishbone. It was a fishbone helix,
Yeah, we couldn't believe it. None of I don't think the people at the ambulance had never seen that before. And so they were like, they waited with me to see it. After I'm like, there's health professionals are always so into that.
So we have another podcast called the Wreak with Havoc podcast, and it's something we've done for going our 6th year now we've had, and it's our explicit ranting sales podcast thing, but it's Tales from the Road, and that would definitely fall under the Tales from the Road because we tell funny stories about trade show trips and different weird places and things that have happened. That definitely I'll have to bring that up on one of my Wreak Havoc podcasts.
Well, the next day was the last day of the show because I remember I went and I couldn't talk because I had something in my tonsil. So I was like, it sounded like I had been partying all night. And so I was at the trade show and I was like, and people had a good time in Vegas. I'm like,
no, one piece of sushi. It was one piece of sushi.
I didn't even get to eat anything.
Not like a 12-hour bender in Vegas. It was a 1 second bite of sushi that did it.
Did you hear that? She was back in the booth the next morning.
She was. She's a champ.
Yes, I was. Yes.
I know the people can't see this because we're just an audio podcast, but we record on video so that we can see each other's faces. She's actually wearing a cape. She has a Wonder Woman outfit on and a cape. Like she has all of it.
The sushi company was great. If they're listening, I was like, they were great, and they paid for the ambulance and the medical bills, and they were really nice. And I've eaten sushi. I ate sushi literally the next week, but it didn't stop.
No fear.
Yeah. It'd take more than that to stop us from eating sushi too.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next thing then. Question number 2. We ask all of our guests this, but this is where we want you to give your sales pitch. So why Helix?
So Helix is the only code-approved replacement for rebar in vertical structures. So if you're looking to get rid of your rebar, you need Helix. And that's just the time savings. That's your labor savings. That's your speed of construction. And it's code-approved. We have our evaluation reports. So that's the 5-second, 10-second pitch. And most contractors are using us for that reason. They are out there and they're frustrated. They're frustrated with time to buy themselves. They're like, as you mentioned, Trevor, you've done it. They're frustrated with having to find labor, get their labor to stick. They're guys that are familiar with doing it are retiring, and they're looking for solutions.
That's awesome. It's one thing I probably should have brought this up earlier, but the one thing that's interesting for me being in the business so long, when do know the when did Helix start, or when did they come to market? How old are they?
2004. So
Oh, wow.
20 years was.
Wow. Okay, that's way longer than I thought.
Late 2003.
Because I was thinking it was 10. I was like going, and I was giving them credit, going, they go way back 10 years. Like, that's crazy, 20 years. Because it's, I would say,
ICF was the first. ICF was the first, one of our first customers.
Wow. Yeah. And that's where I kept hearing about it. Was funny. I'd like and I say for 10, maybe it has been 20. I'm old. I forget stuff, but it's like, I just remember it's just been always there. I've always stopped by the booth at World of Concrete every year. I've always talked to them, and it's always just been this, like, I think it's right on the verge. It's right on the verge. And I would say, like, it is literally just starting now to where it is really becoming an option for people across the board, where I felt like it was like a lot of people were saying, well, I've seen it. It's not happening in my market. Maybe in this application or this, but not mine. And I feel like I'm just running in more and more and more. And maybe it's also seeing it in the, the Facebook groups and some of the stuff that is out there where you're able to see into different markets. It's just happening. Like, I mean, you guys are literally kind of on that, that upward trend, that rocket ship kind of going up right now, where it's really, really cool to see how it's finally, I mean, and this is how I feel about ICF. I've been in ICF for over 20 years. I feel like it took so long. We were just chipping. All of us that were in it 25 years ago knew this was the way to go, knew this is the best. And it just took forever. And then I feel like in the last, 10 to 5 years, it's just really taken off. And I feel like you guys are in that moment right now. So that's really cool.
You're right. I was going to say that the parallels are with ICF. I mean, we look at what happened. A lot of this had to happen with the wood market, the lumber. So there's lumber, there's labor. The labor shortage it's not going to go away.
No.
And we know that. I just think that it has to do with the generations that are coming into the workforce, the type of work they're looking for. There has been, I think, a good movement and revitalization of trades, getting people back into trades. But that's just starting, right? So we're not going to see, I think, reap the rewards of that. And it's not going to really necessarily help or, I think, fix the shortage that's happened. But it's always going to be there. And that's where ICF and that's where Helix have really found a market. And I think that when it comes to, there's the commercial industry and the slab on grade market, and the groups that are using us in that space, they have different reasons for using Helix. They're similar, but I think that a lot of them are rooted in the labor market. Like, whereas an owner or contractor is going to specify Helix for certain reasons, ICF and Helix kind of go hand in hand in parallel.
Well, what she was saying about the lumber shortage. Do you remember during the lumber shortage, we also had a traditional steel rebar shortage, where down in Boise, we had a couple of jobs and we weren't a big enough customer in Boise to get the rebar that we needed for our job, but we could come up to McCall, and we were one of the bigger companies up here.
Trucked it down.
And we trucked our rebar down to Boise for our jobs because we couldn't get it down there.
Yeah,
and
they were picking their biggest customers, and we weren't the big enough. So.
Yeah. So just interesting how it's grown and over the time. So
the final question, and then we'll let you out of here. I appreciate you taking the time this morning, and especially on a Friday, you should be. I mean, you're East Coast, so you should almost be off by now. But so our last question is,
if I was in California, I'd be off by now.
Yeah, exactly. So number 3, our final question is, what are you excited about in the future? And I think this is such a loaded question for you, because I honestly, when I say future of ICF, I really do put Helix as one of the words or companies that I would put in that conversation, because I think you guys are definitely something that we're going to see more in the future. But what within Helix, what are you guys excited about moving forward in your company and in the ICF industry?
There's a few things. Immediately, we every year are putting brand new things into our ICC report. So we are always trying to make strides and changes when it comes to code. So we are very involved with ACI. We're very involved with ASTM, and we are constantly trying to move Helix forward and what our vision is forward. It's not necessarily just to benefit our pocket. It's to benefit. So by being into walls, we're benefiting the ICF dealer. We're benefiting we're trying to make ourselves accessible. And so to do that and to help you guys out And so every year we're updating our ICC reports. We're adding new things to the ESR report, which is our other report for commercial and footings and stuff. So that's immediate. So we're making changes all the time. But when it comes to the long future of what Helix holds, I think that you're only going to find, just in the same way that with ICF, the growth is, I think, on a parallel trajectory. It's the more that it's accepted, the more people are realizing that the benefits of it, even from an environmental standpoint. School districts are now implementing ICF purely and solely to benefit, not only the construction, but the future use of the building. So we're looking at concrete over lumber. We're looking at the longevity. You're looking at everything that has to do with concrete being the foothold of ICF, being the strong thing that stands, when you have natural disasters. It's, that's the real long history, is I think that we're only going to better ourselves and better the industry. We're going to be bettering the house that you live in every day, is saving on energy costs. You're saving on all sorts of things long term that Helix will only be a part of. That's really the future. But immediately we're trying to make it accessible and easy.
That's awesome. I think that pretty much wraps it up. We've taken.
It does.
Unless do you have anything else in closing?
Well, no, I just want to say thank you, because it was so fun to, we sought you out at World of Concrete, and it was almost like we were following Vanessa around from ICF Builder Magazine, because she was going around and talking to other people, with ICF. And,
I'm easy to find.
yeah.
I pitch that all the time.
But we sought you out there, and then, getting to run into you again at the Builder Show and hang out with you at the Element ICF kind of rollout there that they did that event. That was a very cool event. So I just want to say thank you for your time today, and just, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah. And then thanks. Let us creep on you. She made it sound really creepy, like we were following you around everywhere. At World of Concrete, we were creeping on you. IBS, we were creeping on you. So thanks for letting us be creepy.
I don't condone that.
Thanks.
Nobody's.
You didn't call the cops when we were following you around everywhere. That's awesome. No,
Well,
no, you have been awesome. And like I said, we've been so excited to get you on this podcast and talk about it. And I keep saying this, but it's all about our listeners. It's all about what people want. And that's something that everybody wanted. So I think you absolutely nailed it. There's so much good information in here that we just went through that I think is really going to help people, but people will obviously come up with more questions. They always do. And hopefully we can go ahead and put, Helix's website in and contact information for you to, we'll put that in the show notes so people can reach out and find out. And then you can put them in contact with, their local Helix distributor and stuff like that. Correct? That's all good. Okay. So we'll put that all in there. Do you guys are you guys, I'm sure you are on social media, your socials and stuff, and on IG and all that good stuff?
We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Don't know if we're on Twitter. I don't have Twitter, so I wouldn't know.
You guys need a TikTok, like a TikTok. That would be cool, huh?
I'll recommend that to our sales and marketing person. She would be so excited. I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I could see you guys doing Helix dances and stuff. No, we'll put a connection. I'll put a link in the show notes that will go out with all the information and stuff to follow you guys and get out and really see what's going on. Because I think you guys just continue to have more and more cool stuff and get bigger and bigger. So that's really, really, really cool. We appreciate you being on. I know this is a lot of good information, so we'll put that on there. Anyone has any questions for us, obviously keep doing what you're doing. I mean, the info at buildwithicf.com, at buildwithicf on all our social medias. We do have a TikTok. We have not done anything with it because I kind of almost did it laughingly. Like I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a TikTok. So that way when people say, oh, do you have a TikTok? I'm like, yeah, I have a TikTok. There's nothing on it, but I'm going to try to change that. I'm going to try to do that. I'm not going to do any dances. I'm sorry that won't happen, or lip syncing, but
you say that now.
Right.
I'm going to check in a year from now. We'll see.
I do drink, so maybe sometimes that could happen after a few cocktails or something. I don't know. But I will say, too, I want to give a little bit of a plug, just timing-wise, the way this episode is going to roll out. We do have an upcoming training class that we're going to do in Nampa, Idaho. So if anyone is either in the area or wants to make the trip to Nampa, Idaho, and has been dying to see it, just outside of Boise, if anyone doesn't know where Nampa is where our shop and our location is. It's where our drafting office and everything is. We're going to host an event on March 27th from 9 to 3. That's Mountain Standard Time. We will be doing a training class for ICF construction and also for Hulk waterproofing. So everybody that, if you're interested, I will put a link to that as well. It's on our social medias. It's on our website. You can go to Build With ICF /training and you can sign up for the training. It's a free training. I had a guy contact me the other day and asking if we were going to sell him anything. So I guess I should have probably put that in there. It's not a sales pitch. I'm legitimately trying to do what we do with this podcast, which is educating people about ICF and options. We will talk about Helix. It is in the slideshow as part of our reinforcement portion of it. So Helix does get a shout out in the training. It's not a sales pitch. I'm not selling anything. We're literally just trying to provide a service of training people about ICF in general.
But if you decide that you want to build with ICF afterwards and you want to buy product from us, we definitely will sell.
I'm not opposed to selling you stuff. I will sell you stuff. Don't worry. I will.
She's like, well, now hold on.
Yeah, hold on. We got to pay for this somehow. We are buying lunch. So anyways, yeah, you can come out. Please reach out. Go, check out our socials. Shoot us an email. You can sign up either, shoot me an email at info@buildwithicf.com. Go to our website or go to our socials to sign up for the training class. Again, that's March 27th from 9 to 3. And let me know if you're interested. Anybody's interested in that. Other than that, I think we are good. I think that's a wrap. But
yeah.
Thank you, Erica.
Guys, for having me on.
Super informative, super amazing. You are definitely Wonder Woman, and you've got a lot of things going on. You do a great job at everything. So keep doing what you're doing, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. So with that, I think we're going to be out of here.